Alright, for you guys that love fossils, this is going to be one of the best videos you ever seen. We are in one of the largest private collections of fossils you could find. And we are with the legend that found them all, Mr. George Powell. And he has graciously given us some time today to show us around and show us some of his museum he's got here at his house. He's got tons of information we're going to go over, so stay tuned. It's going to take a little while to do it. How many pieces you got, George?
A little over 15,000.
15,000 pieces in here, so I don't think we can make it in a 20-minute video, but we're going to give it a try. Take a little bit. All right, hold on. Let's go talk to Mr. Powell right now. George, I really appreciate you taking the time here for us.
Hi, Steve.
Oh, man, it's been a long time. I was here about 10 years ago, but now it's kind of gotten bigger since I was here, I believe.
Well, I finally got it finished. It's not complete, but I've got it finished.
Getting it closer. Oh, my God.
When I quit collecting, then it'll be completed.
And that's never, right?
That's never.
I figured that. All right.
I'm hoping for a reprieve.
I tell you, I'm just going to take a quick glance around the room just to show y'all what is getting ready to go on here. And every one of these drawers you see down here has thousands of fossils in it. And look at this. I know everybody loves these right there. Our favorite thing to see, the old Megalodon.
Steve, there's 53 Megalodons in this display case.
53
the smallest
megs.
one is 3 inches, and 4 of them in the back row are 6.5 inches.
Wow, look at that. All right, Jordan, what got you into collecting fossils to start with?
Well, I was 12 years old. I was deer hunting in the western part of Virginia, and I sat down on a rock ledge to eat a sandwich. And I laid my rifle down and reached in my pocket to get my sandwich, and when I reached down, I saw this rock that had some funny shapes to it. So I picked it up and looked at it, and I said, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to take it home. Somebody might know. So I put it in my other pocket, I ate my sandwich, got my rifle, got up, went on deer hunting. And a couple days later, when I went to school, I took it to school with me. And the teacher said, oh, it's just a rock, it's nothing. Well, we didn't have anybody at the school that knew what fossils were. Back then, that was when I was 12 years old, and I'm 70 now, so things have changed.
Things have changed just a little bit.
But a few years later, I saw a picture in a book that looked just like what I had, and it turned out that it was shells about 400 million years old.
Man.
And what had happened when those shells were living, they didn't live in the mountains. They were actually 100 and some miles to the east. And with the shifting of the Earth's crust, the tectonic plates, the shifting went to the west, pushed up and created the Blue Ridge Mountains, and that's where I found them.
And that started the whole museum here. It started with that one find, basically.
One thing. And then a few years later, I found a shark tooth. Didn't know what it was. So I asked someone what it was, and they told me. And the more I found, the more I wanted to learn about it. The more I learned, the more I wanted to find. It's a vicious circle.
And it just started a whole process.
So I've handled well over 100,000 fossils in the 58 years that I've been collecting. I've donated over 5,000 fossils to schools and museums and groups.
Well, who's some of the ones you donated to?
Well, I've donated to several universities, University of Maryland, in North Carolina, Coastal Carolina University. I donated some fossils in my mineral collection. The Aurora Fossil Museum, I've donated fossils. I've donated rare bird bones to the North Carolina State Museum. I actually donated the actual Paratodus teeth to the Smithsonian, and I turned down a very considerable amount of money. It turns out it's the rarest set of shark teeth in the world. Okay. The good thing is I donated them to the Smithsonian. They're going to be there forever. People can come and see them and study them. And that's very important for people when you find rare fossils to let the scientific world see them and study them. And you could possibly donate them And with the 3D technology they have today, they can make a three-dimensional model of it and give you that. You can give them the real fossil. They'll document it. They'll give you a letter of thanks for donating it. You have an exact copy, and it'll be with science forever.
Now, I noticed, let's see one of your fossils, how you document them.
Okay.
We're talking about documenting everything, so let's take a look at, let's pull one out that you got. You got one right here?
I've got a partial shark's tooth here.
Okay.
And
I noticed all your fossils have a little number on the fossil. And kind of explain to everybody what that means.
Well, what I do, I document where I collect fossils and give a number to each site that I collect fossils. So when I first started, I collected in Virginia. So I write my initials, Virginia, I put VA, and then whatever the location number is, I'll put that on the fossil. So that's what I'm going to do to this tooth right here. Now I know where this came from because I actually have it written on the tooth right here.
Right there. It's already marked right there. Okay.
So I'm going to write on it. Now this does not hurt the fossil to write on it, but what it does do is makes it scientifically more important because you've documented it. So then I take and write on the fossil. Okay, I put GP, VA for Virginia, and then 3. So that's GP for George Powell, VA for Virginia, and the 3 is the location. And then I have a catalog where I document the exact location. So if it's, say, a quarter of a mile from the intersection of Route 1 and Route 5, then I write that down. You'll know where it's at.
Now, this catalog must be kind of big.
Well, it's about an inch thick. It's about that wide and that big.
And getting bigger.
And hopefully to add to it.
And getting bigger all the time.
But it's very important to
document.
Most people have an accumulation of whatever they collect. But it's very important to make it a collection to catalog it. You're not going to live forever. When you die, the information goes with you unless you've cataloged it, you've written it down, or you put it on the computer and create your catalog on the computer. Now, I've also created a database on the computer of all of my fossil species. The common name, the scientific name, the body part, the location I found it. That's all documented on my computer in addition to the catalog. So I can update that anytime I find something, print it out, and update my book that I put that in.
Now, George, I know you travel everywhere getting all these fossils, and you run across all kind of land on Maryland, Virginia, all over. Now, how do you actually do about getting permissions, or how do you know where to go, what not to go?
The most important thing you can do is get permission from the landowner of the property. If you go on state property, make sure you're allowed to collect the fossils if you find them. Most state parks, it's against the law to collect fossils. Most property that's owned by the state, it's illegal to dig for fossils or relics or anything else. So always make sure you have permission to be there. Because if you're trespassing and you find something new to science, you won't be able to keep it because you were trespassing, and they'll take it away from you, and you could possibly get jail time.
That's good information. Everybody pay attention to that, because we won't nobody get in any trouble collecting fossils. It's not worth it.
And I sleep good at night when I get home from collecting because I know I was legally there. I have permission to be there. I have permission to collect the fossils, and they're mine.
That's the way to go. Now, George, I know you are a wealth of knowledge. You've been doing this for so many years. Now, see, amateur paleontologist on here. So I know you know a lot of stuff. Now, does anybody ever ask you to come talk or try to teach about the paleontology or stuff?
Yeah, this year I've done almost 300 hours of volunteer work for the Royal Fossil Museum. I've been a volunteer there for almost 31 years. And I go to schools and different organizations. I do a program talking about cataloging your fossils, the importance of it scientifically, why it's so important to do that. And I enjoy talking with people and sharing what limited knowledge I have, and I take fossils with me, and I actually let the kids touch the fossils. Because you go to a museum, you can't touch the fossils.
You shouldn't lie like that, though. Limited knowledge, that's not true. Don't lie to me like that, George. You know better than do that.
Well, I am an amateur, or now the professional world, they're trying to get that changed from amateur to avocational paleontologist, because it puts a little bit of a better feeling with it, because a lot of people think, oh, you're amateur, you don't know anything. Well, a lot of professionals have finally come to the conclusion that there are a lot of amateur collectors that are extremely knowledgeable. I'm not saying that I'm one of them.
You are, no question.
But that they want to use the word avocational. It has a better tone to it.
It sounds better. I hear you.
But I'm an amateur. The only difference between a professional and an amateur, I don't get paid to do what most professionals can't do, because they're stuck in the museum or a university or college, and they don't get out in the field to collect like the amateurs do.
Gotcha. Now, George, you have a heck of a museum around here, which we hadn't even begun to start to show yet with all this stuff. So, I just wondered, has anybody else been here besides the Gigmaster?
Oh, wow. I've had probably 1,000 people here. I've had people from universities, colleges, museums, 16 different colleges, universities, and museums. I've had people here from 30 different states so far, and from 13 countries.
Man.
And I document that, because when people come here, I have a guest registry, and I ask the people if they wouldn't mind signing my guest registry, because that adds to the legacy of the collection. Because I know I'm not going to live forever, and other people don't know what I do here. So I document everything when people come. I get them to sign my guest registry, and then I transfer that information. So now I've got 30 states, 13 countries, 16 colleges, universities, and museums. People have been here for as long as 14 hours at a time.
Wow, man.
Studying and doing research on my collection. The local university here, East Carolina University, they've had groups here. The Coastal Carolina University teaches geology. They bring the groups here 3 times a year for their students to study my fossil collection. So, Steve, yes, I've had...
You've had a couple people here then, just a couple.
Here.
That's pretty awesome.
I enjoy everyone that comes here, because I get a chance to share my limited knowledge, share my love for the fossils with other people. Yeah. And I love seeing that expression on a person's face when they see something they've never seen before.
That's awesome. All right, George, I know you don't collect fossils all the time, because I do see a few things in another case back here that does not have fossils in it.
No, Steve, actually there are no fossils there, but it's part of my life, a very important part. When I was 17, I enlisted in the Navy. 2 months later, I went to Vietnam for 2 years.
Well, thank you for your service, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. When I came home from Vietnam, I needed a job. I wanted to be a paid firefighter. Well, nobody was hiring at the time, so I went to the local volunteer fire department, and I joined that. And I got the same experience and training as a paid fireman over the years. I actually retired as a deputy chief in the volunteer fire department.
Let me see some of these hats you got
over here. And this is some of the memorabilia. This is my private's hat when I joined to start with as a rookie. And then I was made private, and then I was sergeant, lieutenant, captain, assistant chief for 1 year, and then I was promoted to deputy chief for the last 4 years. And the last 3 months, I actually served as the acting chief in our department. And those are some of the toys of the fire trucks that we had. The first fire truck I learned to drive was a 1918 Model T chemical.
Wow, that's old.
And then that's a 1928 pumper, and this is a 1949 ladder truck.
Oh my goodness.
And then I actually helped to design this ladder truck here, which takes 2 drivers. And this picture of me at the back end, and I actually turned the opposite direction of the guy driving the front of that.
That gets confusing, doesn't it?
Oh boy, I tell you what.
Little practice when I hit a couple poles and get practice in. And
I drove to work. I drove a left-hand drive car. I worked as a mailman. I drove a right-hand drive Jeep. I left there, went to the firehouse, and drove the opposite direction in the back of that fire truck. That's why I look like this
I hear
today.
you. Working on you, isn't it?
But I was lucky. I'm one of those individuals that it all came natural. I didn't have to think about it. It just went with the flow.
Well, that's good. I tell you, volunteer fire department for how many years?
Actually, 51 years this year.
51 years. Unbelievable. Well, appreciate your service there, too.
Well, thank you very much.
Is there any particular call that you remember more than any other one, or?
Well, one of them was the Air Florida airplane crash on the 14th Street Bridge in Washington, D.C. And a lot of people lost their life there. I spent 16 hours there helping to do rescue on the bridge itself above where the plane went into the river. And that call will stay with me the rest of my life.
Man, I remember seeing pictures of that.
Other things, I've delivered 4 babies over the years.
Awesome.
I helped save a life during CPR. So the good times,
the good stuff,
overwhelm the tragic calls that you go on. But it's everyday life. Somebody had to do it.
Yep, and we're glad you were there to do it.
Well, thank you.
All right, well, let's move on to some more fossils. What do you think?
All right.
All right, thank you for joining me on the Fossil Legend Part 1 of George Powell. George Powell is the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I feel honored to be working with him and doing this video about his life and his collection and his little museum he's developed there at his house. It's awesome. For those of you that won't ever get a chance to go to his little museum, this will at least give you an opportunity to take a look at it on film. It's better than nothing because it is amazing. So, I appreciate everybody coming along, and we're going to have part 2 coming out for too long. So, anyway, if you see this guy right here beside of me, this old man in the circle, make sure you click him because you can subscribe to the channel and make sure you get on the list to let you know when the next video is coming out. And if you'd like to see some of my other videos or some other adventures, right here, I got some right there too. So thanks for coming along on this adventure.